For 1,000 years we have had no contact with that which was in the origins, at the source. This is very different than all the theological concepts that came down to us, both consciously and subconsciously, that we've simply adopted, that have been mixed through the Catholic Church into all the Protestant sects, and which shape our understanding and assumptions of what Christianity is. It is very difficult to just walk in and try to absorb what is happening, what the surroundings are. The heart of ancient Orthodoxy, and Orthodoxy simply means doxa, right worship, right alignment and experience of the holy, not exclusive but authentic. What we find at the heart of these original teachings, the source material of all that we have come to know as Christianity, is that potent and unknown word theosis, which means deification, divinization, God realization, and which highlights the fact that this profound mystical teaching is about becoming partakers of the divine nature, as is said in the second letter of Peter. It is about participating in the goodness of the holy. So it is truly a matter of profound transformation and experiencing intimately, organically, ontologically, the reality of spirit. And this is fundamentally different than many of the theologies that we have been exposed to, where the crucifixion represents payment for sin and that's the end of it, or in any other kind of fragmented and distorted grasp of what this is all about. If you study these matters, if you study the ancient teachings to the monks on how to progress in the spiritual life, such as the masterful Ladder of Divine Ascent by John Climacus, and so many others, you will find indeed that this is the source of inner Christianity, which is so far from the superficial kind that we see around us, in which is rejected for its hypocrisy and lack of depth. For someone from the West with no previous exposure to the strange and wondrous world of Orthodoxy, there is need for some kind of guidance. For myself, it's been 35 years of studying the wisdom of the Desert Fathers and Mothers, the Holy Fathers as they call them, and discovering the psychotherapy that is timeless and extremely accessible and powerful for us in our time. Out of that study and translations that I've done, I began to experience through a Serbian mystic friend who I've introduced on the internet, their liturgical experience. And what do we find there? An astonishing school, if you will, that feeds the senses. The incredible incense that heightens our presence to sacred space. The icons, which are considered windows on eternity. Orthodoxy has a very practical and thorough understanding of incarnation, spirit in matter. So through matter, we experience spirit. Through our senses, we encounter the sensation of the divine. So all of this beauty, all of this environment is an objective stimulus of our senses to lift us into another state of consciousness. This requires our participation. We can't go in there full of negativity and suspicions and prejudices, for that shuts us off from what is being offered. But if you enter that environment open and receptive to the unknown, you will immediately recognize that you are in a different world. You have entered truly a sacred space that is entirely outside of the rough and vulgar and violent world that is our culture. We'll find that there is an instant encounter with reverence, with repentance. People will prostrate themselves, which is very unusual to see in the West. The chants going back to 500 AD and before have a direct impact on emotions because they are designed objectively to reach those areas within us that we are so often removed from, that we unconsciously cut off from ourselves. So this myriad of methodologies and highly developed ways to reach the human being and help them awaken to that expansive consciousness of that which is invisible and yet immediately present to us is what we find at the heart of Orthodoxy. Encountering spirit and finding inner transformation, stirring the heart, opening the mind. We discover that we can use all that is available to us in this foreign land of Orthodoxy. The Orthodox are often called the Marines of Christianity. They stand for ours because there is an ascetic component even for the most lay person, and not just the monastics. This belongs to humanity. Recognize that the physical components of the service are meant to be integrated in the spiritual experience because nothing is compartmentalized. Let yourself go with that flow of the service and trust that the millions of souls that have been profoundly fed by these actions now and in the past and in the future were not just culturally bound or fitting into an ancient tradition, but in fact discovering eternity in the present moment. May that be your discovery as well.